Okay, so let's officially get started now. What I'm going to go over today is we're going to pick up where we left off last time. Where we left off last time was right prior to the midterm. And this class meeting is kind of late in the term, so I'm going to kind of go through the midterm, go through the CSLO essay, go through the due dates for everything, go through all 5 assignments. Then I'm going to pick up on the lecture material. So you have your choice. You can go back and, as I mentioned before, you can go back and look at the weekday stuff as well. So slightly different formats, not all bunched up together in one weekend. But it might help you, especially pick up the pieces where you might have some confusion or anything. So in terms of first order of business would be the midterm exam. The midterm exam, believe it or not, is due this weekend for the weekday people. It's not due this weekend for you guys, don't worry. Which is kind of interesting, the way that they have this weekend schedule situated. It's very, I don't know, I think next term I'm going to switch the dates around a little bit because it's very confusing, I think, in terms of trying to sync an a weekend section with a weekday section and have the timing work out. Plus, as you may have noticed, at the last minute they switched my timings. In fact, a lot of people keep thinking that we're meeting the April 24th, 23rd, but that's Easter weekend, so I'm not quite sure what happened with that scheduling. But we're not meeting that weekend, by the way. This is our class meeting. All right, so 25% of your grade, and if you're brand new, this is the first time you've been here, you're going to want to look at the syllabus because you're going to want to see what the breakdown is. But I can actually just tell you, it's 25% on a midterm, 25% on a final exam, 25% on 5 assignments that I'm going to go over today, which gives us 75%, and 25% on a CSLO essay. So it's pretty easy. There's just 4 areas. Your final exam you're going to take on the April 30th, May 1st weekend, which means you're required to attend it. If you don't like the date that you've been issued, you're more than welcome to send me an email message and I can reschedule you for one of the other dates. So what I would do if I were you, especially if you're traveling, is maximize your stay, minimize your expenses by just showing up one time and taking all the final exams that you need to take at that particular visit. For those of you who have shown up today for the very, very first time in the exact term here, what you want to do next term is show up for the first class meeting and the last class meeting. So you have 3 total weekends in the entire schedule. The first one is always important because then you can kind of get the materials, get up to date, figure out what the class is going to be all about, plan your time out. It's a more productive meeting for you. The last one's required, and you have to go 2 out of 3. So it's not a total loss that you showed up this time, but we don't have as many students for this particular visit for that particular reason. Because if you had your choice, you pick the first one and the last one, skip the middle one. That's what most students actually do. So that kind of explains, to those of you wondering what's going on here, that probably explains why we don't have that many right now. All right, so. And also in the first class session, I go over the syllabus and all the assignments as well. So, but I haven't done that for this class yet, which leads us to the midterm. So the midterm exam is covering the first half of the course. We've actually already gotten that material from the first class meeting. If you don't have it, you can go through and go through the PowerPoints and go through the video recording lectures. It is an open book, open note, open internet. However, don't plagiarize off of the internet. Write your answers in your own words. It's worth 25 points. There are 10 questions worth 2.5 points a question. So you answer in 1 paragraph or 2. Paragraph is like 3 sentences. So I want more than a sentence, essentially. What you're doing is you're answering all questions. And as an example, what makes software engineering different from problem solving in other engineering fields and sciences, as an example. So you would answer it in a paragraph or 2. Don't write me a novel. Each one of them, you could probably write a 10-page essay on it, but you don't want to. Unless you really want to, and that's okay. I'm not taking points off for the longer answers, but I want more than a sentence, so 2 or 3 sentences. So you put that in a Word file, it gets uploaded to the ITU EMS along with all of the other work for the course. Everything gets put into the ITU EMS, and which is easy. The entry should be made at this point. Nothing is due. This particular, although it's already due, let's do this weekend for the weekday people. Yours isn't due until the very last day of the term, which I believe is May 9th, but don't quote me on that. So what will end up happening is you'll get these irritating email messages from the TAs that come out. You probably have seen them, maybe, hopefully already, with the wrong dates and with the, this assignment's due now, this assignment's due. There appears to be a lot of confusion. If you ever have a question, just send me an email message, bhecker@itu.edu. I can answer your questions for you and actually give you the right answer. And just know nothing is due yet. You haven't missed any deadlines. Everything is due at the very last day of the course. You can take the final exam before the course ends, before you turn in everything. So it's not the 30th weekend. It's I want to say the 9th, 7th or 9th. May 9th? May 9th? Is that the one? I don't know. Who said that? You said that?
Yeah.
Where did you get that from? From me earlier? During the week? I don't know. That's what I want to say. If not, I'm going to make it the May 9th. I'll make it May 9th. How's that? May 9th. We're done. Settled. Okay. So any questions about the midterm exam? That is available, downloadable from the bhecker.com website. So, all right. Other order of business. I'm sorry?
I have one more question.
Okay, very good.
Yeah, it's like when we talk about the midterm thing, it's
Uh-huh.
like if I write the answer in, you said you want more than a sentence.
Yes.
If we do give that in, it will say 10 to 12 lines or more than that, say 14, 15 lines. Is that fine?
Yes, of course it is. Of course it is. Just more than one sentence, but you're not going to get extra credit for giving me a novel.
Yeah.
And it's just going to be a waste of your time, seriously. But all the questions are very open-ended. If you actually answer every one of the questions, you could write 10 pages on it.
Yes.
But I just want, you're not going to be able to give me all the details in more than, if you just write a paragraph or so, you're not going to be able to really answer the question completely.
Yes.
I mean, how does software engineering differ from other engineering fields? You can probably write a lot more than 3 sentences or 4 sentences. So don't worry about the depth of the answer is what I'm saying. Just give me more than 1 sentence. It deals with software. Oh, no. Okay, you want a little bit more than that. All right, so. This is where you want to elaborate. This is what's called the Course Student Learning Essay. It's called the CSLO for brand new people. How many brand new people do we have? Do we have any brand new people to ITU? Not new to the class, but new to ITU? Oh, all you guys are. Okay. Well, you're not familiar with the CSLO essay of the past. Those people who are those returning people have the nightmares of the CSLOs of the past. This is not the same. This is different. And here is another thing that you're going to get confusion by with the ITU TA emails that go out. Is half of them are telling you to send it to the TA first. In the old days, you guys don't have to worry about this, but in the old days, the CSLO was sent to the TAs for approval before submitted, and the CSLOs were based on the course, CSLO stands for Course Student Learning Outcomes, Outcomes. I changed it now, it's Course Student Learning Outcome Essay. I gave it the same name, but I changed the nature of the assignment completely. In the old days, it was based on those 5 objectives you see in the syllabus. At the end of this course, the student's going to be able to know the differences between software engineering and other engineering fields, as an example. The old pattern was, tell me how you learned this. Tell me how you feel about learning this. How do you feel about learning this? Tell me about how you feel about learning this. It was like the same question 5 times, and it was ridiculous. And I really don't think, in fact, it was self-learning, or self-assessment. It wasn't, I don't even think it was actually even assessing anything, anyway. And it was for accreditation, for the first part of our accreditation process, and we needed to do that, actually, which is why it ended up that way. So we don't actually have to do that anymore. So I've left the assignment in, but I've changed it around completely. So those of you who were familiar with the old format, forget everything you knew. Don't send it to the TAs first, even though half the TAs don't know the format's changed, the process has changed. So send it to the ITU EMS just like any other assignment that you're uploading. So just think of it as another assignment. But the nature of the assignment, and I like the concept of the true nature of the assignment, which was it's an essay. It's not a multiple choice. It's not like a short answer like the midterm is. And the final exam will be multiple choice. And for those of you who came in a little bit later, I will be reviewing for the final exam during the week of the April 14th, which is not next week, but the following week. And I'll be recording that, and I'll put a link to the recording of that in our section on bhacker.com, so you can listen to that and get everything you need to know. At this point, I have half of the exam written. I don't have the whole thing written yet, so I can't get. It's too early in the term. You don't even take it till the end of the month, so you'll have plenty of time to study for it if you go through the exam and read the review lecture, listen to the review lecture, and I'll give you everything, and I'll put some notes up there as well so you can read through it as well. But for the CSLO essay, this is not due until the very last May 9th. And what you're going to do is select one. You'll see that there's 6 topics here. You're only selecting one of them. And the one that you select, you're going to write 3 to 5 pages double spaced. So it's really 1.5 single space, but I want you to double space it. On your selected topic, you must include at least 3 reference citations, which means I really want you to actually kind of practice your English communication skills, your writing skills. It's a formal essay. You're supposed to write it out like an academic paper, so you need to do some research on it, and I'll go through the topics in a few minutes. You only select one of the topics. 3 references is not bad. You don't actually have to write that much, 3 to 5 pages. If you want to give me more, that's fine, but don't give me anything less than 3 pages. And the research that you perform, you're going to gather, and you're going to use. Your paper should reflect your own writing. Cannot be cut and pasted from the internet or copied from a textbook. We're actually going to run it through a new system we have called turnitin.com to see if there's any plagiarism. We're also connected, we'll do some basic plagiarism checks on it. A good percentage of the grade is did you write it yourself? And the focus of it is to essentially write on a particular topic. And the particular topic, and I'll go through them, hopefully you can see it here. Sort of see it here, you're going to have a better luck if you download it and look at it on your own computer. But I've highlighted some of the words, well, put them in a different font, I should say, so that you can actually kind of pinpoint out the theme of each one of them. And I'll go through these briefly and kind of give you some ideas about what to write on. So it's fairly straightforward, I think, in terms of the expectation. Everything else in the course is going to be a hands-on application. This is going to be an essay, which makes the CSLO essay kind of unique in terms of itself. And then every class you take will have a CSLO. How the format's going to be might vary depending upon the subject matter and the instructor. Some of the instructors, I believe, are still using the old CSLO format. And some of it was like weekly, some of it was, I don't know. But don't worry about that. It's just one essay assignment that's due at the end of the course. There's no weekly contribution to that at all. So let me go over the topics real quick. The first one is provide an overview of the use of modern software engineering tools necessary for today's effective engineering practice. And you see there's a bunch of questions here. You don't actually have to address the whole thing. The concept is to provide an overview, and you're looking at use of modern software engineering tools. You could talk about development tools. You could talk about automation tools. You could talk about testing tools. Anything related to software engineering tools. That's why I'm pointing out that I changed the font on the parts of the description that were the most important for the focus. You could, if you wanted to answer the questions, and some of the questions here are, how are modern day software engineering problems being solved? What tools, methodologies, paradigms exist? And Are they popular? Are they used today? I don't know why they stuck us in this room, seriously, outside of the fact that we're closer to the TAs. I don't know.
But I think that
I believe that was the end of the game.
that will be the over. That will be over in next 1 hour, half an hour. 1 hour.
Yeah, I know. No, this will be over with soon. Yeah. I think that's why they stuck us over here, actually, so the TAs could sit next door and watch the game. Because normally I'm in the other room. So, all right, we're good though. We have desks in this room. I like this. Okay, so the benefits the new tools might provide, how's changed in recent years, things of that nature. Any questions about number 1 in terms of if you were to pick that one? You don't have to pick them all, but that would be the theme for number 1. We're all good with that. Very good. Number 2 is provide an overview of risk management. The process of software engineering, describe the plan, how it might be carried out, give some examples, or use a case study to demonstrate your points. So this is the first question was more theoretical in terms of the applications of tools. Second question brings up a different concept, demonstrate your points, use a case study. So what you could do is talk about a company that you might have some familiarity with. You might talk about it in a generic sense, bringing in examples, bringing in, you don't have to actually use a case study. You can come up with your own case study. When I say case study, it's more along the lines of examples or information that you can bring in to support your points, whether it be examples or theory, concepts. But as I highlighted here, risk management. So anything related to risk management is going to... Good morning. Yes, it is, software engineering thing. And anything related to risk management is going to be the theme on that. The third one, software testing. So, describe how software testing should be performed. Provide an overview of a test plan. And detail out how the testing process should be performed. Demonstrate your points with examples and a sample project or case study. You don't have to give me all of it. You don't even have to give me a case study or examples. You can just simply talk about software testing.
So, can we give a sample test plan or something?
Yeah, you could. You could.
But in that sample plan, we need to mention a few of the things about the scenario we are testing, something like that, right?
Yes, here's the deal. Don't give me just a test plan. You have to write 3 to 5 pages of an essay. Yeah, see, that brings up an excellent point, which I needed to make, which is that it's a writing assignment. It's an essay. Don't fill it in with source code. Don't give me 3 to 5 pages of source code. Don't give me 3 to 5 pages of a test plan or a marketing plan or a risk management assessment or something. I'm looking for an essay, like an old traditional style introduction, body paragraphs, and a conclusion. Yes?
The whole question should be put in 3 pages or
Yes. Pick one of the 6. Don't answer all 6. Answer one of the 6. And that answers the 3 to 5 pages, double spaced, in the form of an essay with words. Key right there. If you don't give me an essay, your point value goes down. So if you gave me, in your case, if you gave me a software testing plan, describe the plan. You can include the plan, but describe in 3 to 5 pages what the plan is all about.
Oh, okay. We need to write.
You need to write an essay,
Okay,
3 to 5 pages long.
And
That you can include a test plan, but it's not part of your 3 to 5 pages.
yeah. But when we talk about this case study thing, it's like we can give 2-3 liner reference for the case study.
Actually, if you use a case study, you can integrate that into the 3 to 5 pages. It becomes part of it.
Okay.
Because what are case studies? You're talking about the company, you're talking about how the concept is applied. A test plan, if you know a case, if you give me use cases or test plans or procedures or outlines, that's not like an essay writing, is what I'm saying. It's more like source code or use cases. Or, it's writing, but it's not in the form of an essay. So just in the back of your mind, just keep reminding yourself, essay. And you'll have the good point there.
So the format for that would be a simple introduction, body, and conclusion.
Yep. Are you guys familiar with how to write an essay? Actually, There's an extremely easy way to remembering a good format for an essay, because what you guys mentioned before. Usually it's like there's three components. Tell them what you're going to tell them, and then tell them what you told them. You guys hear that? It's a classic American style essay writing pattern. In fact, it works for public speaking too. So you're going to tell them what you're going to tell them. That's the introduction. So you go there, today I'm going to tell you about blah, 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 blah. Tell them. First point, second point, third point, each point goes into its own paragraph. And at the end of tell them what you're going to tell them, you have your thesis statement, last sentence of your introduction paragraph. Today I'm going to talk about X, Y, and Z. And this is what I'm going to talk about, blah, 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 blah. X, Y, and Z are important because of A, B, and C. And then that's the last sentence, your thesis statement. Last sentence. You don't have to identify this in your essay. You can use any style you want, but this is just a suggested format. And then paragraph 1, statement A. Paragraph 2, statement B. Paragraph 3, statement C. And then tell them what you told them. I just told you about A, B, and C, and how it applied to X, Y, and Z. And I know, it's going to be over with in about half an hour or less. Is that what you're complaining about? World Cup? No. Yeah, did I get it right this time? Yeah. I guess India's playing with
Sri Lanka.
Sri Lanka. What did you say? Sri Lanka. Did I say that right? I don't know. Okay. All right. Yeah, no, it's almost over with. They stuck me in this room so the TAs could skip out and watch the game and be close, just in case I needed something. And so then in conclusion, you tell them what you told them. You usually start out the conclusion with the same sentence or a similar reversion of the sentence of the thesis statement, which is the first sentence of the conclusion, actually. It's like the classic way of writing an essay. You can use that. You don't have to use that. If you take a writing class, they'll show you that. All right, so that was software testing. That was number 3. Number 4, what is the difference between software reliability, dependability, and security? We actually haven't talked about that yet, and that's our first lecture for today. That's where I ended up. That's where we ended off at the midterm of last time. So today I'm going to actually talk about reliability, differences between reliability and dependability, what that means. That's one of your questions on the midterm as well. So you're describing these concepts, explaining the differences between the concepts, providing an example to demonstrate your abilities. Demonstrate reliability, dependability, and security, providing an overview with clear distinctions between the different software qualities. So basically it's a comparison and contrast between these different software qualities, what they mean, how they're implemented, stuff like that. So this is the CSLO essay for those of you who came in late that I've been going over. The 5th one, you may or may not want to do. We're actually not going to cover it, but we do have a lecture on that, and I'm going to go over that before at the end. But we're not going to. This is the This is the second part of this course. The third part of the course, you might be able to hit the lecture from a weekday schedule. I'm not going to cover it today, though, which is on agile software development. Yes.
In this, can we describe about the types of that are generally used in companies like Scrum,
Yeah.
Extreme Programming?
Yeah. That's your opportunity right there. That would be your choice. That would be number 5. So you can take it off on a tangent, talk about different types of methodologies that are being used currently right now. Or agile software development in general, like maybe perhaps an overview if you wanted to, providing examples of how it might be used in a sample project, describing the project, how the concepts would be implemented, and then anything that would be related to agile in terms of software development. And then the last but not least, what are some of the software engineering tools and development environments, kind of similar to this first one, in terms of the use of modern software engineering tools. But providing an overview and comparing different environments, comparing 2 or more, or focusing on one in particular, giving an overview of the development process, what it offers, stuff of that nature. If you can stick, usually most of the software engineering topics I've covered in the course fall into one of these five or six categories. And if it loosely falls in, you're good. You don't have to be exactly on with any particular one of the topics. Any questions about the CSLO essay? Well, that's because you came in late. It's due May 9th. All of the assignments for the course are due the last week of the term, which I believe is May 9th.
So we have 3 assignments for this course.
This particular course has 4 areas. We have a midterm exam. We have a final exam, both worth 25% of your grade. We have 25% of your grade also on a CSLO essay, which this is the assignment I just went over. The other 25% consists of 5 assignments. Yes. The 5 assignments, the first section of this course, I went over assignment number 1 already. I should have gone over assignment number 1. I did. Very good. And I may have also gone over assignment 2. I should have. Okay, good. Very good. Which is the risk assessment plan. And then I cut you out. So assignment number 3 is the next one, the feasibility analysis. We're going to talk about feasibility today, actually. And in assignment number 3, we have a scenario. So you read through the scenario, and at the end of the scenario, you see end of scenario, you answer the questions. And the assignment has you write 2 to 4 pages, double-spaced. So again, it's like 1 to 2 pages, single-spaced. And your answering is that based on the given scenario above, what kinds of questions would you have to ask to initiate a feasibility, to come up with the feasibility of the project information based upon the project? Does it seem feasible? What are some of the things that you'd be thinking about in terms of questions that you might want to ask when putting together a feasibility study? Describe what the plan of action is for the new century health clinic management. Decide to if they decide to contract the services. What types of information is needed to begin the preliminary investigation? So you're really thinking about planning. You're not writing a feasibility study. You're thinking about these particular questions, and the focus of the assignment is to answer the questions, essentially. So based on the scenario, go through each one of the different things. There's an entire lecture on feasibility study. We'll actually be talking about costing, estimating, and feasibility today as well. So. Sorry, question?
Yes. Like while answering these questions, doing this assignment, what is it? Good resources?
The lecture material. Yeah.
And we can answer like on our own.
Yep. Yep. In fact, you'll find most of the information will come from your own analysis. There's, in software engineering, actually, as an engineering, there's not much of a methodology. There's not much of a science to it, actually. It's mostly bringing together multiple disciplines and coming up with your own kind of strategy, your own assessment. There's another book I mentioned in the first interactive. Is this the first time you've been here?
No, second.
Oh, okay. I think I mentioned the book was Software Engineering, A Practitioner's Approach. I believe the URL for the book is in the syllabus. It's not a required book, but if it's your first, because this is software engineering too, if it's your first course in software engineering, it's not a bad reference book to get you up to speed on what we covered in the first course. I also put out there, you can see on the website under the independent study link, you'll see the software engineering notes from the software engineering 1. It's about, 60 or 70 pages of reading. There's a ton of information in there. You can find a lot on the internet as well, but if you go through my materials, you'll find all the answers to everything you need. Yeah, or the video lectures from, in fact, there's 2 of them. One on feasibility studies, actually, and one on software costing and estimates. If you go through the weekday lectures, the video recordings, you'll see it categorized out by topic, which might make it easier. Here they're kind of condensed down, into this first hour, second hour, third hour. So it's a little easier by topic. So the third assignment deals with the feasibility analysis. You're not necessarily putting together a plan. You're just answering questions about it. Or were there any questions about assignment number 3? No. And then the 2 other assignments, 4 and 5. Number 4 I'll be talking about today as well when I start my lecture part. This one is on software architect. Analysis and design. Software engineering too? Yes. Found the right place? That's okay. Again, you're reading through a description. After you read through the description, this description is pretty lengthy actually. It's on a software development. And it's an interesting concept actually. You're developing the architecture for a mine pump control system. Designed to monitor the pump flood water out of mine shafts. So, you're like, where did I come up with this stuff? So pumps, the functionality is all described about switching on a pump, switching off a pump, low water, high water, measurements and stuff. So your task is to document the software architect of the system. I'm going to be talking about that today. In fact, this is where we left off on the weekday program. So this is where we're going to talk. This is where I'm going to lecture up to today. And you can also find some information at this particular link. If you go to the link, it'll talk about software architectures. So you're going to use any development technique that you want. You can use UML for an object-oriented approach. You can use a structured analysis and design approach with an entity relationship with anything you want, actually. Provide the complete design of the system as described above. You are not writing source code. Do not give me source code. When it says design of the system, it's from a software engineering perspective, not a programming one. Don't give me source code.
It's like we need to write down all the actors and.
I'm going to totally go over design for you. By the end of the day, you'll know what this means. In fact, when I start talking about software architecture and software design, I'll tell you, this relates to assignment number 4. So hold that question if you have no idea what I mean by design at this point. Other questions? But I can tell you, as a kind of a side note, software architecture is more along the lines of the objects. If say they're doing a UML object-oriented, it would be the object diagram. It wouldn't be a class diagram, but it would be an object diagram showing you a high-level system. Sometimes you see little pictures of clouds. They call it a cloud for cloud computing. Sometimes you see it as a network, the internet, and you see server 1, server 2, so then you connect the servers together. In here, because of all of the details about the pumps and the requirements of the pumps, you're probably going to end up wanting to do an object diagram. That's what I'm thinking. Because you're going to want, pump controller, system controller, water indicator, all these little things. And you can actually kind of get carried away, but just think high level of abstraction. Number 5. Assignment number 5 works with the concept of developing a test plan. Which is essentially for software testing. So you have been tasked to develop a test plan for the mine pump control system that you did in number 4. So you got to do number 4 before you do number 5. After you've spent so much time looking at the architectural design, you should probably understand it quite well at that point. And then at this point, then you're going to come up with a test plan. And I'm going to tell you which lectures to look at in terms of the testing, but there's different types. In fact, I'll be talking about testing today. In fact, when I start talking about reliability, dependability, I'm also going to be covering test plan stuff. So the majority of what I'm going over you haven't seen yet in terms of the lecture material. So you're determining the preliminary tasks for your test plan. You're developing the actual test plan. Don't give me use cases. Don't give me test structures or tests. The plan does not contain any use case scenarios or scenario. I'm sorry. Yes?
We give a happy car for
I'm going to do unit testing first. I'm going to do system testing second. I'm going to do integration testing third. In my system testing, I'm going to use use case scenarios. I'm going to use interactive diagrams and interactive tests. In my integration testing, I'm going to do network integration testing. I'm going to do protocol testing. I'm going to do API level testing. I'm going to do plan. No implementation details. That's the best thing I can tell you about this one. If you gave me a complete test plan for that pump system with all the use case scenarios and all the, it would take you 6 months to a year to put that together. If you actually did it correctly. But that's not what I'm asking for. So let's see. Identify focus areas to be covered by the testing. What am I going to test? The coverage.
In scope, out of scope.
And I'm going to talk about testing. One of the concepts of testing involves the concept of coverage. Coverage, in fact, you have the midterm in front of you. I mean the final. Let me have that back. See, now does it make sense? Those questions? Well, you took it early. I'm sorry. But don't worry about it. I'll be lenient on you because I know I haven't even talked about half this stuff yet. These 2 students have taken the final exam already. Huh? Okay. Well, you might want to wait then. I mean, because the problem is you're taking a final exam for material I haven't even covered in the class yet. But anyway, concept of coverage is going through this was one of the questions. Going through the, well, actually, this was a specific question about about trees, I think, or I can't remember what the question was. But anyway, I can't remember, which is probably a good thing because I can't answer it now. I mean, I won't be able to answer it without knowing what the question is. But the concept of coverage meaning getting a full depth of all of the different control paths and the flow and all of the different features. So in terms of identifying focus areas to be covered by the testing means what are the most important areas of the application of this pump control system, this mine pump, that you're going to focus. I would almost want to say the indicators are going to be fairly useful. I mean, you have to kind of think about what areas, if something failed in the system, what area would it be, and then making sure you have a full coverage, which means the full span of all of the operations and all of the paths that go through the program, through the software. If you think about how flow control works in a software application, it's usually user interface generated because you have options menus. You would want to make sure you covered all of the menus. But you're not going to cover every single feature. If you actually were able to test every single feature of that software program, it would take you 6 months to a year to actually do it. Instead, you're going to look at the coverage, pick a represented group out of each one of the areas, make sure you hit at least one of the categories, which means you're going to have to know what the categories are. You have to actually come up with your coverage, which is the focus of identifying the focus areas. So one of the first things you would do is define the problem space and then make sure you have enough variety of tests to hit all of those problem areas in terms of the focus. And I'm going to talk about testing as well when we get to the lecture. Identifying resources that can be used during the testing, tools, techniques, and stuff like that. Designing appropriate personnel to do the testing, test strategy. How many people are you going to hire to do the testing? These are all test plan components. Has nothing to do with writing use cases. So, resources, coverage, the plan of attack is what you're putting together. And developing a test plan strategy, develop the test strategy, the plan, and the timeline. How many weeks, how many months. You don't have to put together a real schedule. Ensure that you have enough resources to complete the test. Some of the resources you might need might be hardware, software, labor, tools, licenses, location, if this is a mine pump. Are you going to be doing the testing at the mine pump, or are you going to be doing it in an office building? These are some of the considerations. And it might help actually if you read the mine pump description so you know what these things are. But verify that you've taken into consideration the physical planning and the installation requirements. Review the plan thoroughly before submitting it. Use this review to focus on your timeline, requirements, costs. Costs, you can put costs in and make some numbers up if you want. Put some costs. Testing costs money. So it's time and resources that are being allocated, so you can actually make up some bogus numbers if you want. There are no numbers mentioned. There's no cost of anything mentioned in the paper, but you can add that in if you want. And obviously this is not going to be it's all left to assumptions and interpretation as well. So make any appropriate assumptions and interpretations to make the plan successful. I hope they're winning. So you want to see the actual plan, not a bunch of test cases. So that's the most important statement of the entire assignment description. I want to see a plan, not a bunch of test cases. Don't give me test cases. Yes?
In the schedule part, what you told, how can we give a proper schedule of like how many days for the development? How many days?
You're estimating it. And you're not doing the development, this is a test plan. So you might be designing a test plan to work alongside of the developments. So it the plan may not start, going back to your schedule question, the plan may not start at the very, very end, hopefully. It does not start at the very, very end. Hopefully it starts at the beginning when you're requiring requirements. From requirements definition all the way till the implementation. You might have different tests. I feel like I'm competing with the next door. You might have different tests that you can actually implement, that you can do, because you can do different levels of testing can be done throughout the entire development process.
So maybe the schedule for that, how much time for system testing?
Yep. That would be your schedule. When is that going to occur? So by schedule, it's not necessarily 5 days, 10 days. It's more like, this is going to happen when this stage of the development is complete. This next part is going to happen when that stage of the development is complete. So it's more like a schedule in terms of the flow of the development. But don't give me the schedule for the development. I don't want that. That's a very good question, actually. Any other questions about the test plan? Nope. I'm hoping maybe that was the end. 6 more?
And one more request. Can
Yes?
you please give us a break after this time is done, just for 10 minutes?
We can have a break now if you'd like. Let's have a
No,
break.
it's like after
No?
5 to 10 minutes. We'll tell you when.
After 5 to 10? Why? Is there going to be more cheering?
Yeah.
We can break for 10 minutes. I think it might actually be good right now. So let's break for 10. We'll be back.